Welcome back, everybody. It's been a little bit since our last video. I was caught up with some, everyday, daily life things that kept me from, not being able to record. But I did have a little bit of time today, so I thought I'd get some stuff recorded in here. So today, I thought I would look and show you guys a couple things that you can do. So looking all the way back to our very first map that we made of the campsite. Before we even, knew it was going to be a campsite, all that. So I thought if we, take another look at this map again and maybe show you some ways that you can change things on the map. So my idea here, what I was thinking anyway, was if you go over to the B tab here, you can see there's these tents that we can use here. So I thought maybe to make this look a little bit more like a campsite, I would, maybe add a tent or whatever. But then I wanted to show you guys, too, how you can change it. So maybe you want the tent to show up like a little bit, like maybe just like for an intro scene or something. And then after that, you might want the tent to go away. And, like they packed up their tent and they're, off doing their thing, whatever. So I wanted to show you two different ways that you could do that. That would work pretty well. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and, click the map that I want here. Actually, before I do that, there is one more little detail I wanted to add to make it look a little bit more like what you would expect from a campsite. And I guess we can just use one of these, maybe this one. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Just go to the map. Maybe they'll just be, I don't know, a spot. Right about. Actually, we can even make a clearing. Let's just do that. Let's make a little bit of a clearing in here. I know this is going to change our nice design a little bit, but maybe let's do something like this to make it be an obviously different spot. And we could even do like a different color dirt or something if we wanted, but I think that's probably good. And then we'll just add one of these in here. Just to show like, hey, there's a campfire spot right there. Alright, so anyway, added that. There's just a little detail that I thought would be nice to add, since we did have the imagery for it and everything. But yeah. So the other thing is this tent here. So let's go ahead and just right-click on this and copy it. And what I'm actually going to do is paste 2 copies of it in here as child maps, basically. So paste that, and then I'll just go in really quick and change the name to just something like campsite tent test 1, and then I'll call the other one, or actually method. Maybe we'll do method. Yeah, that's a better word. So tent method 1. And this one we'll just call tent method 2, and this is just to show you guys what you can, what you can do if sorts of things if you wanted to do something like this. And method 2, and these are just 2 ways you can do it. There's probably other ways that I don't even think about or whatever. But so one thing, if you wanted probably the simplest way to visualize it is if you wanted the you wanted to do like an introduction scene where the tent is there and then maybe it's not. Would be to we'll just do that for method 1, I guess. And this is probably the one I'd most likely use for something like this, to be honest. But what you basically do is start the player on a map. It's a direct copy of this one. It looks exactly the same. So all you're doing with this other version is just going like this. Maybe you draw the tent, say, right there. And then, that would be it. So what you would do is you would start the player on this map where you drew the tent, and then when you want the tent to not be there, then you would just transfer them to this version of the map where it doesn't have it. So that's the easy way to do it. It's probably the most sensible way in most cases. I actually don't really think well, I was going to say I don't really like how that looks right there, but I guess we can just change that really quick. But no, I guess it's fine for now. But just for the sake of example, so So let's say here we wanted to make this be the start of our game, right? So instead of starting the player, here or wherever, we would start them somewhere on this map. We'll just say, maybe for the sake of example, we'll go to set starting position player right there. And then maybe we want to start this at nighttime. So we haven't actually seen how to do that. So we're just going to go, I'm just going to put it up in the corner up here. And we'll go to new. And we'll say, we want this to be an auto run event to start right at the beginning. And priority is fine as below characters. Now what we're going to do, go to right click in here and go to new. And then we want to find the screen options over here on page number 2. So we can see fade out screen, fade in screen, tint screen is actually the one that we want here. So it says changes the color tone of the entire screen, also affects the battle screen. So click in here, and then we see it has all these presets that are nice and handy. The older versions of RPG Maker didn't have presets like this that I remember, so you just have to play around with the sliders, and you can do it this way, or you can put in the numbers and whatever way you prefer to just play around with it and see what happens. But you could do normal, dark, and then you can see that's a preset of it. Just changes the values to something that that would match it. So there's the sepia tone, and sunsets, and the night view, and you can see kind of over here what it's going to look like. So normal, dark, so it gets like a little bit darker to where it's more gray looking. Sepia tones are mostly browns and yellows and things like that, and beiges and things. Sunset, it adds quite a bit of orange and brightens it up. And then so we're just actually going to use the night preset for our example here. And now the duration, it says frames 1, and again 60 seconds, so 60 frames here is the same as 1 second. So and this just says duration of the effect in frames. So that's basically how long it's going to take for the tint to fully reach this whatever value that you did. So if you wanted it to transition really slowly, then you'd make that a high number, but we can just leave it out. The default, I think, that's fine. And then wait for completion. You want to wait for it to finish the effect or not, so you can have it transition as things are happening if you leave that unchecked. But if you want to wait until it's all the way checked, then you can do it that way first. So we can just have something like that, and then I think what we'll do is we'll just do another wait when we haven't done a wait, I don't think. So this timing section is the only thing. It just says wait, and then it says waits for a certain period of time. So you can use this if you just want like nothing to happen for a couple seconds. So that's kind of what we're gonna go for here. Let's do maybe 180, so for 3 seconds basically, and then we can do, let's just hit OK for now, and then we want it to move up to okay. So yeah, we're going to make it look like they go into the tint. So to do that, we'll just right click in here again, go to new, below our weight, and then we'll do our movement route again, just like we did from before, and we want to move the player, and we're going to do move them up 1, and then we're going to turn on through. That way, it says makes it possible to move through impassable tiles and characters. So I can't quite remember if it's possible or not to be able to walk through here, but doing it this way with through, it definitely will be. So that resolves that regardless. So it's just like a failsafe. And then we'll have them move up one more time. And then you always want to make sure you turn through back off once you're, once you've done what you're trying to do. So, because if you forget to do that, then your player will be able to walk through everything on the screen, and that wouldn't be so great. So that's all we want them to do with that. And then we want to go with this transparent on at the end. So what that'll do is it'll, I'll just hit OK because that's all we need to do for that for now. So we want it to do, fade the screen, wait for 3 seconds, and then the player will move up, 1 square, 1 tile, and then the through option will kick in there. They'll move up to the next one, so that'll put them right inside the doorway basically, and then from there turn the through off so they can't keep doing that, and then turn on transparency. So that's kind of a step 1. And then from here we want to kind of, let's just do another tint screen. Actually, no, we have these other options here. So we can do fade out screen, and fades out the entire screen. Okay, and that's kind of what we're going for. So we'll do that. So, and it just says fade out screen, so it'll fade out the screen at that point. And now in here we want to do some stuff that's a little bit invisible to the player, but to make it so, things are, how should I say, things that transition cleanly, so that it's not, a bit of a mess. So when the fade out screen is done, then we'll go ahead and do, actually we can just copy this one. Go ahead and Control C. We'll paste in here. But we don't want to have, worry about all the moving and all that. So we just want to do, and we could do the through off at this point if you wanted. It doesn't really matter, but we can just do transparent off for the player, and that's fine. Because that's the main one we want to, we could do through off there. That would actually be an okay way to do it. But anyway, but the point is, this will make the player transparent, when they go in. And maybe we'll get even, let's even put a weight in here, actually. We can do it in this. So you can also add weights in here. You don't have to do them in the other thing. So we'll do, wait 1 second. And then transparent off. And that's probably good. Just to show you. And it might not look as clean as we wanted. And in that case, you could just, adjust wait times and things like that. Add them where you need them. But the goal here will just be, it starts out at nighttime. The player character moves into the tent. They disappear, which kind of, the transparency, which makes it look like they went in the tent. And then the screen fades out all the way. And then, while the screen is totally faded out, then we make the player visible again. And then we can transfer them to the other map. So let's just make that last little part here, transfer player. And then you would just transfer them to, somewhere on this map, and you'd say, oh, well, just transfer them right there. And, direction, they can face down like they came out of the tent. And then the black the fade we can leave at black, that's fine. So the only other thing that you want to do is make sure you fade the screen back in too, is the other thing. Because if you forget to fade in the screen again, then your screen just stays black after you transfer it. So just like with the transparency parts and the through, you want to make sure you turn them back to how they were before you mess with them. Same with the tint, actually. I almost forgot about that, but we'll just go ahead and Control C that one, and then we'll Control V again here to paste. Hit the space bar to edit, and you want to put this back to normal tint, and you wait for completion and all that. Okay, so this might be a little rough as far as the weights and things. There'll be some unusual pauses and things like that, and that's the kind of thing that you just kind of start with some value and then you kind of refine it from there, like, oh, maybe 3 seconds is too long to wait, maybe 2 seconds is better, that sort of thing. But you can play around with all that as you're messing around with stuff. So this is the auto run. It's going to do all this stuff, and then since it's the auto run, we want to make sure, just to be on the safe side, that we do, again, like we talked about before, the erase event. So we erase all that. So now the player will start here. It should be nighttime right away. About as soon as it can be anyway. Wait a little bit. They'll move into the tent. They'll go invisible. The screen will fade out to like totally black from nighttime, and then when they wake up, or that's what we're trying to show anyway. Well, it'll be a full tint again, or normal tint. The screen will fade in. The player will show back up again, and they'll be on the other map that does not have the tint. So hopefully that all made sense. Let's go ahead and test it and see if this works like we think it's going to. And then here we go, it's nighttime. And then it waits for a couple seconds, it disappears. And we see the campsite. Now we're here again. Alright, see, so that's one way to do it. And now we looked at a nice way to make like a little intro scene for your game or whatever. You can do something like we just did with this event here. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, but it's one way you can do it. Another thing that you can do if you want to make it even more interesting, not interesting, that's not the word I wanted. If you want to make it even more convincing, there we go, that's the word. A little bit more convincing, there's an option when we get to, and we haven't even looked in here yet, but when we do get to looking in the database, there's an option that says, that allows you to start the game with a transparent player. So they won't, necessarily show up on the map or whatever. And then what you can do there is you can have that option, and then instead of starting them on the map you actually want to go to like this, you can just have a blank map, so it's totally basically a black screen. And then you have your transparent player, so they don't show up on the screen. And then you can transition them to this map. So I don't know if you noticed, but those first couple seconds when when we landed here on this map with a new game, it was daytime, and then it kind of transitions and fades into our nighttime tint here. But that's about as good as we can get it, with this approach that we've done right here. But like I said, if you did the transparent from the start option for your player, start on just a blank map with nothing in it, and it'll just be black, and then you basically start with the black screen, then quickly transition over here. You could do the screen tint at that point, and then as you and then it would transition from black screen to nighttime, and you wouldn't see so much that little momentary daylight, daytime thing. And you could also try with like the fade out screen at the start. That might work, but it might also kind of look sort of the same. So it's one of those things you just have to play around with. But that's one way you can kind of cheat it, I guess, is one way you could say it.